Words are powerful, intense tools that construct the bridge of communication. Such communication permitted society to advance from the Stone Age to the modern technological giant it is today. Being able to properly distinguish the denotations and connotations between words and their effect on the world around us gives one an advantage in the competitive marketplace of life itself.
In today's documentary, I, Isaac Sasson, Angelo Rizz, and Reuvi will divulge into the mysteries of the words revolutionary and terrorist in order to fully understand the effect of words in our language and the world around us. We interviewed educators and alumni from OTHS and analyzed these words to the highest extent. So sit back, relax, and don't forget to keep an open mind because what you're about to hear may surprise you. So what is the denotation and connotation of a word? Well, the denotation of a word refers to the direct definition, while the connotation of a word refers to the emotional feelings attached. Why do we bother to create distinctions between the meaning of a word and the emotions attached to it? In order to better understand these differences, it is best to take a look at two specific words as examples. The words that we have decided to take a look at are terrorist and revolutionary.
When you hear the word terrorist, what's the first thing that comes to mind? How about when you hear the word revolutionary? Here's what some of our interviewees thought.
It make me feel like I get chill in my body, feel me? Like, I automatically feel like somebody's like, gonna come at me or something, feel me? Like, I'm gonna be a hostage or something, like, they're so aggressive, like, I just know somebody's doing something that they're not supposed to do.
For revolutionary, what do you think?
America, not gonna lie. I think of like liberation, freedom, stuff like that.
Most would say that the word terrorist evokes some sort of fear, evil, or destruction, while the word revolutionary evokes sympathy, respect, and compassion for their goals. Why is that? Well, first, let's take a look at the origins of these two words.
The word terrorist, and similarly terrorism, originally came to English as a translation of the French word terrorista that was used during the period known as the Reign of Terror. The Reign of Terror in French history was a period when the nation was ruled by a faction whose leaders made policy of killing by execution anyone who they deemed an obstacle. At this time, the words terrorist and terrorism referred to terror done by the government. Later on in history, through a correspondence between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, the word terrorism, often used side by side with terrorist, underwent a shift in meaning, from violence perpetrated by a government to that perpetrated against a government.
You never felt the terrorism of Shays' Rebellion in Massachusetts. I believe you never felt the terrorism of Mr. Gallatin's insurrection in Pennsylvania. You certainly never realized the terrorism of Fry's most outrageous riot and rescue, as I call it, as the world and great judges and two juries pronounced it. John Adams to Thomas Jefferson, 30 June 1813.
A more modern meaning of the word terrorist, according to Oxford Dictionary, is a member of a clandestine or expatriate organization aiming to coerce an established government by acts of violence against its subjects. Essentially, the word terrorist refers to a person who attempts to change an established order through violent means. The word revolutionary combines the word revolution and the suffix "ary". The word revolution was first used in the 14th century to describe celestial bodies and rotations about the earth. In the 15th century, the word revolution shifted to a new meaning, an instance of great change in affairs. It was only later on, in the 16th century, that it gained its political meaning of overthrowing an established political or social system. It was especially applied in England during the expulsion of the Stuart dynasty under James II in 1688. This political meaning of revolution, combined with the suffix "ary", which means a person belonging to or connected with, gave the word revolutionary its meaning today. According to Oxford Dictionary, a revolutionary is a person who starts or supports a revolution, especially a political one. Essentially, the word revolution refers to someone who is attempting to overthrow a government.
So, the denotation of the word terrorist is someone that overthrows an established order. Usually this is done through violence, and the denotation of the word revolutionary is someone that likewise overthrows an established order. Usually this is done through a revolution, or in other words, a war. If both these words have basically the same denotation, how and why do they have opposite connotations attached to them?
Simply looking at how the words terrorist and revolutionary are derived can illustrate the emotions these words are meant to convey. Terrorist is derived from terror, which literally means extreme fear, while revolutionary is derived from revolution, a word we use to describe pivotal moments in history that brought great change. such as the American Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, the Scientific Revolution, and many more. Furthermore, certain historical events that hurt Americans, such as 9/11 and the Boston bombings, were created from people called terrorists, further enhancing the narrative of terrorism.
Revolutionary innately invokes an almost prideful feeling when mentioned, while terrorism invokes hate and disgust. When people think of revolution, the natural assumption is an ideology similar to an underdog party obtaining freedom from a tyrannical power. Yet when people think of terrorism, they think of a mad dog deprived of humanity and morality, searching to spread darkness across the world. But these feelings don't make sense in the context of historical usage of these words.
A great example of the hypocrisy of modern feelings attributed towards these words is the French Revolution. It was one of the bloodiest periods in human history, with the tyrannical royal family being overthrown and slaughtered, yet it was declared a revolution. After Maximilien Robespierre took over, heads were rolling all over the place, and anyone who was rich or disagreed with him were immediately guillotined by his order. One could say Paris had two rivers, one of water, the Seine, and the other of the Revolution, the River of Blood. Paradoxically, the Reign of Terror was the bloodiest time in the French Revolution. So then what causes us to feel this odd way about these words?
As Winston Churchill stated, history is written by the victors. A failed revolution is labeled as a rebellion or an uprising. It becomes just another act of terrorism done by terrorists. However, a successful revolution is seen as a pivotal moment in history, where a government was changed into a better one thanks to the help of revolutionaries.
The connotative differences in the words terrorist and revolutionary derive from political disposition as seen throughout history. The influence of the victors shaped the modern definition of these words and the emotional intensity associated with them. So what do these differences suggest about language? First, let's look at what our interviewees had to say.
It's that we pick and choose who we vilify and who we believe to be the heroes in our stories. As it depends on perspective, right? Our revolutionaries could be someone else's terrorists and vice versa.
It can change throughout time, and it does really impact how we see certain groups in the world, and it really stresses the importance that we need to separate the literal definition of words and how we feel about those words.
The distinctions between the words revolutionary and terrorist suggest that language is subjective. This means the way language is used between different groups of people is based on their own personal bias. For example, Americans will classify 9/11 as a terrorist attack and a great day for mourning, while extremists in the Middle East will declare it as a revolution against the corruptness of capitalism. In both scenarios, neither party is using language incorrectly. Their own beliefs and experiences influence how they would describe the same event, hence making language a malleable construct. Unlike mathematics, where rigor is true and preciseness is the key to describing equations, language is open forum, and the use of language can and will be completely different based on the user of such. So, what do these distinctions suggest about society? The distinctions between the words revolutionary and terrorist suggest that society as a whole can be easily influenced. A society's political authority, its geographical location, and the social culture that surrounds the citizens of said society all impact how communication is interpreted. This suggests that there is no true reality. Rather, reality is subjective depending on which societal norms you are exposed to. For example, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, the leaders of democratic left-wing states such as New York condemned the overturning of the amendment, supporting a societal norm depicting hatred and disgust of the U.S. government. In comparison, in very right-wing Republican-dominated states such as Texas, it was viewed as a victory towards human rights. Both words, revolutionary and terrorist, can effectively support or slander political aims. Choosing to label someone a terrorist or choosing to label someone a revolutionary can affect how people view that person within that society. There is no way to know definitively whether someone is good or bad, and often we decide that for ourselves based on the societal norms of the region. According to Miss White, we pick and choose who we vilify and who we believe to be the heroes in our stories. Perhaps the fact that we created these words to describe both good and bad exemplifies that those at the top of society effectively manipulate those beneath them into supporting their cause. Ms. Sullivan says it best.
Because of the Revolutionary War, which was supposed to be good, we assign that more of a good kind of connotation, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. They can overlap. Oh, language can be very powerful, but the fact that those two can overlap, and you think one, you think, yeah, go, and the other you think is bad, it's language is very powerful.
In conclusion, we can concur that language and the duality amongst its interpretive definitions shape how we view and react to the events of the world. Thank Thank you for listening and have a good day. See ya.